President Trump fighting back in a number of legal battles while campaigning to return to the Oval Office. He's now facing 2 limited gag orders that prevent him from saying whatever he wants, whenever he wants in his New York civil trial and in the federal election interference case. The latest NewsNation Decision Desk HQ poll finds his legal drama doesn't hurt his chances to be the presidential frontrunner, not at all. 44% saying he is the strongest candidate against President Biden in the general election. We've been reporting on that for quite some time. Joining us right now, Hogan Gidley, Vice Chair of the Center for Election Integrity at the America First Policy Institute and former National Press Secretary to President Trump. Good morning to you. How much is the former president being silenced by these gag orders?
Well, obviously a lot. The president of the United States was kind of known for speaking directly to the American people, which is one reason the legacy media hated him so much, was because they didn't need the filter of a nighttime news anchor to get his message out. He went right to the people through platforms like Twitter at the time, now X. Of course, he has Truth Social as well. And so Donald Trump doesn't like to be a punching bag for those in the legacy media, for sure, but also his political opponents like Leticia James, someone who ran on trying to get Donald Trump, calling him an illegitimate president. So it's clear she's obviously an election denier too while we're at it. But going after him in a way where it allows them to leak to the press, talk to the press about the case, but keeps Donald Trump silent. As you said in the setup, Donald Trump can't say anything. That seems like a violation of the First Amendment. Now, I understand his attorneys may like the fact that Donald Trump can't speak publicly about the trial and about the people prosecuting and persecuting him. But the American people obviously would like to know what Donald Trump's thinking. And of course, as Donald Trump, the accused, would like to get his side out, not necessarily through the court processes, but instead through his own voice in real time, and that's been taken away.
But this is certainly a different situation, considering the fact that he is a president, he is a presidential candidate, and a lot of times we don't hear this much from defendants, but he is a unique individual. Is it a stretch to say that these gag orders are unconstitutional?
I wouldn't say it's a stretch. I mean, look, that'll be battled out. I'm sure there'll be appeals and other kind of questions and concerns about it. But Donald Trump likes to speak out. He's not shy about making his opinions known. And anytime you try and silence and censor and shadow ban that, it appears as though it's a crampdown on the First Amendment, if you will, his rights to speak and defend himself. Again, you're talking about a public trial and political sentiment versus a legal trial. And while his attorneys may like the fact that they don't want their client to speak publicly, a lot of us out here are concerned about the prosecution and persecution that exists from these three-letter agencies, the weaponization of government, a two-tiered justice system. And it really smacks of that when you allow one side to continue to speak to the press, but not the other.
I want to talk about Leticia James, even for those who support her. I had to say, she sounded like a character from an Avengers movie the other day, saying quite dramatically, "Victory will be mine," as she left the courthouse steps this week. Do you think she should be keeping quiet at this point?
Yeah, absolutely. Although she's made her opinions well known. I mean, it's obvious this case is purely political because she ran on the fact. I mean, this was one of the things that she promised she would do, would be to get Donald Trump. And as I mentioned, she called him an illegitimate president many times. And I've been told by good authority that means you're an election denier and you don't have any rights or credibility. So I guess she hadn't had that either. Also, though, the judge in this case is pretty interesting. He allowed cameras in the courtroom, which is his right. But as the camera moves closer to the bench, it kind of pans up on the judge. He kind of does a double take, looks at the camera, takes his glasses off and smiles, and then looks out at the crowd and shrugs it off like the entrance to a bad 1980s sitcom. The whole thing smacks of politics. And I'm afraid that Donald Trump obviously can't get a fair trial in a lot of these venues because the jury pool is so adamantly opposed to Donald Trump politically. That's another problem. But still, this really is fraught with danger for the American people because the justice system really should be blind. It should not be two-tiered. And too often we've seen the elites get protection from this justice system, but others get prosecuted, and that's a real problem.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.